Hello everybody, welcome to Season 7 of the 1987 Grand Prix Manager 2 1987 mod. So last season, in Season 6, we had for the first time two drivers champions. They were Nelson Piquet and Martin Brundle, who were both Ferrari drivers respectively. Needless to say, Ferrari Ford won the Constructors' Championship last season. What will happen to those two drivers? Will Ferrari win again this season? Let's find out, but first, it's time for the driver transfers. First, the drivers who were driving last season who are now just free agents, and Andrew Cheserus is the only driver who drove last season that has now not got the driver's seat for this season. So with that out of the way, let's see the other transfers. First up, tied for last place is Minardi, and we have kept the same driver lineup as last season and the same engine supplier. Renault are the only manufacturers who will give us engines, because I've gone to every other team and they've all said no, even the ones that are worse than Renault. So basically we are the same exact same as last season. Alright, so on to the next team. Next up, the other team that tied for last place last season is Ligier. Now Ligier have got Nelson Piquet, who won the Drivers' Championship last season at Ferrari, is now their driver number 1. Jonathan Palin is demoted to driver number 2, and Pale Brother, who was Axe's test driver last season, is Ligier's test driver this season. Next up, in 8th place we have Benetton, and Benetton have replaced the outgoing Andrew Cheserus with Philippe Streiff, who in turn wasn't driving for F1 last season. The other two drivers, Nani and Rebs, are the driver number 2 and the test driver, just like last season. Next up in 7th place is Williams, and they have the exact same driver lineup as last season, as well as the same engine supplier as last season. In 6th place is Lotus, and they have the exact same driver lineup and the same engine supplier as last season. Next up, the team in 5th place is Ags, and Ags have kept Derek Warwick as their driver number 1. Martin Brundle, the other driver champion from last season, is the driver number 2 for Ags, and the test driver is Frank Scapini, who was the driver number 2 last season. They have also changed their engine supplier. They are now supplied by by Honda. Next up in 4th place is Brabham, and they have the exact same driver lineup as last season. Also, they have also changed their engine supplies. They are no longer with BMW engines, they are now with Megatron. Next up is McLaren, who came 3rd last season, the exact same driver lineup and the exact same engine suppliers last season. Next up, the runners-up from last season is Zach Speed. They have Gerhard Berger and Alvarez still driver number 1 and driver number 2. However, they replaced their test driver, which was Roberto Moreno, for Gabriel Tarquini, who was at Ligier last season. Last but not least, the champions from last season is Ferrari. They have Roberto Moreno, who was Zach Speed's test driver last season, Eric Comas, who was the Ligier driver number 2 last season, and Stefano Medina still remains their test driver. They still have Ford's engines for the season. But before we get into the race, there's one more team we need to look at. So last season I said that one of the 3 bankrupt teams, that was Terrell, LaRousse and Arrows, would be returning to Formula 1 in this mod. So I asked you guys to guess which one it was going to be, and if you were right I was going to give you a shout out in this video, because I didn't really have anything else to give other than that. But anyway, let me review which team came back, and the team that came back was Arrows. So congratulations, Adam Smith, you just won yourself a shout out. So well done, Adam Smith. But anyway, the driver lineup is Keke Rosberg, Johnny Dumfries, and the test driver is Yari Nurman, with their engine supplier being Megatron. So that's the drivers' transfer out of the way. Let's get on to the first round of this season. So here is the full drivers' transfer list for the season. Probably the smallest transfer list we've had so far, not just in this mod, but including the 86 mod as well. But with that out of the way, let's start round 1. Round 1 is the Brazilian Grand Prix, with Chris Nissen taking pole position for Minardi, Ayrton Senna second for McLaren, Eric Cummins 3rd for Ferrari, Nigel Mansell 4th for Brabham, Michele Abreu 5th for Zach Speed, and in 6th place is Philippe Alliot in the Lotus. The other Minardi driver of Mike Fackel was in 7th. The 2 championship winners from last season have qualified in 19th and 21st, and the 3 drivers who did make the 107% time who wouldn't be taking part for the race were Stephanie Hansen for Williams, Nelson Piquet for Ligier, and Derek Warwick for Ags. For the start of the Grand Prix, the 2 Minardis kept their positions of being in 1st and in 7th. Lap 8 of the Brazilian Grand Prix, and Mike Fackel retires from 7th place along with Gerhard Berger, who is right behind him in 8th place. After Chris Nissemay's first pit stop of the Grand Prix, he was leading the race with Cummins in 2nd, Senna in 3rd, Mansell 4th, Alliot 5th, and round off the top 6 is Alan Prost in the McLaren. However, Chris Nissen shortly retired from the lead of the Grand Prix, which pushed Michele Alboreto in the Zach Speed into the top 6. The race came to an end with Eric Cummins winning the Brazilian Grand Prix, with Nigel Mansell taking 2nd in the Brabham, Ayrton Senna 3rd for McLaren, Philippe Alliot 4th for Lotus, Alan Prost 5th the other McLaren, and Thierry Boutsen gained the final point in the Brabham. Round 2 is the San Marino Grand Prix at Imola, both Ferraris looking at the front row. Chris Nissen is 3rd in the Minardi, both Brabhams 4th and 5th, and Derek Warwick running off the top 6 in his Ags. Meanwhile, the other Minardi driver of Mike Fackel is in 8th place on the grid, and all 22 drivers made the 107% time to start this race. For the start of the race, Chris Nissen held to 3rd place. Meanwhile, Mike Fackel just didn't even make the grid. He disappeared before the race had started. Yay, one of those moments. After Chris Nissen made his first pit stop of the Grand Prix, both the Ferraris were leading the race with Nigel Mansell 3rd for Brabham, Chris Nissen 4th for Minardi, Thierry Boutsen 5th the other Brabham, and Derek Warwick running off the top 6 in the Ags. After Nissen made his 2nd and final pit stop of the race, both the Ferraris were still leading the race with Mansell in 3rd, Nissen 4th, Boutsen 5th for Brabham, and Derek Warwick stayed in the top 6 in the Ags. Lap 57 of the San Marino Grand Prix, Thierry Boutsen from 5th place in the Brabham has retired from the race. That pushed Keke Rosberg in the Arrows into the top 6. The race soon ended with Roberto Rail winning the San Marino Grand Prix with his teammate Eric Cummins in 2nd, Nigel Mansell 3rd for Brabham, Chris Nissen 4th for Minardi, Derek Warwick 5th for Ags, and the final point going to Keke Rosberg for Arrows. And take into account this is Arrows' only 2nd race in return to F1, and he scored a point. Round 3, the Italian Grand Prix at Monza. Both Ferraris looking at the front row, Chris Nissen 3rd for Minardi, Nigel Mansell 4th for Brabham, and both AG drivers are running up the top 6. The other Minardi driver is all the way down in 14th. And the 3 drivers who did make the 107% time who wouldn't be taking part were Keke Rosberg in the Arrows, and both the Zach Speed drivers of Alboreto and Berger. For the start of the race, the 2 Minardi drivers held onto their positions of 3rd and 14th. Lap 3 of the Italian Grand Prix, and Giovanni Amati from 15th place had a 10-second stop-go penalty and came out of the pits in 19th place. After the 2 Minardi drivers made their first pit stops of the Grand Prix, both Ferraris were leading the race with Alessandro Nini in 3rd, Martin Brundle 4th in the Ags, Nigel Mansell 5th for Brabham, and Alan Prost running off the top 6 in the McLaren. After both Minardi made their 2nd and final pit stops of the race, both Ferraris were leading the race, Brundle in 3rd for Ags, Nigel Mansell 4th for Brabham, Alessandro Nini 5th for Benetton, and Alan Prost running off the top 6 in the McLaren. Meanwhile, round at the back, Mike Fackel ends up retiring from the Grand Prix. The race came to an end with Moreno winning the Italian Grand Prix for another Ferrari 1-2. Eric Cummins taking 2nd in the other Ferrari, Martin Brundle 3rd for Ags, Mansell 4th for Brabham, Nannini 5th for Benetton, and round up the top 6 is Alan Prost in the McLaren. Round 4 is Monte Carlo, both Minardi in the front row, Derek Warwick 3rd for Ags, Thierry Boutsen 4th for Brabham, in 5th place is Ayrton Senna for McLaren, and round up the top 6 is Martin Brundle, one of the 2 driver champions from last season in the Ags, while the other driver champion from last season is Nelson Piquet, down in 12th place in the Ligier. Off the start of the race, Chris Nissen kept the lead, however Mike Thackwell fell down to 3rd place as he was passed by Derek Warwick for 2nd place. Lap 2 and Pascal Fabry got a 10-second stop-go penalty, and he comes out of the pits in last place in his Lotus. After the two Minardis made their first pit stop of the Grand Prix, Chris Nissen was leading the race with Thierry Boutsen 2nd for Brabham, Derek Warwick 3rd for Rags, Roberto Moreno 4th for Ferrari, Nigel Mansell 5th for Brabham, and round the top 6 Nelson Piquet in the Ligier. After Chris Nissen made his 2nd pit stop of the race, Mike Thackwell retired from the Grand Prix round at the back of the field. Thierry Boutsen was leading the race with Chris Nissen 2nd, Derek Warwick 3rd for Rags, Mansell 4th for Brabham, 5th was Roberto Moreno for Ferrari, and Ayrton Senna round the top 6 for McLaren. The race then ended with Thierry Boutsen winning the Monaco Grand Prix in his Brabham, Derek Warwick 2nd for Rags, Nigel Mansell the other Brabham driver 3rd, Chris Nissen 4th for Minardi, Roberto Moreno 5th for Ferrari, and Ayrton Senna getting the final point in his McLaren in 6th place. With 4 races done, it was now time to check the drivers and the Constructors' Championship and see who has taken an early lead. In the Drivers' Championship, we see in 1st place is Eric Comas with a 1-point lead over his teammate Roberto Moreno. Nigel Mansell a further 3 points behind in his Brabham with 17 points. In the Constructors' Championship, that would automatically mean Ferrari was in the championship ahead of Brabham in 2nd place, while 3rd place is taken up by Ags, who are 15 points behind Brabham and 18 points behind the leaders. Round 5, the American Grand Prix at Detroit. Roberto Moreno in pole position in his Ferrari, Chris Nissen 2nd for Minardi, Philippe Streiff 3rd for Benetton, both Brabham's 4th and 5th, and round the top 6 is Mike Thackwell in the Minardi. The two drivers who did make the 107% time and wouldn't be taking part of the Grand Prix were Jonathan Powell for Ligier and Alessandro Nannini for the other Benetton driver. After the start of the Grand Prix, the two drivers kept their positions of being in 2nd and in 6th place. Lap 2 of the American Grand Prix, Ayrton Senna came into the pits for a 10-second stop-go penalty and ends up exiting the pits as the last of the runners in 18th place. Lap 10 of the American Grand Prix, Nigel Mansell retired from the Grand Prix from 5th place. That pushed Philippe Alliot in the Lotus into the top 6. After the Minardi drivers made their first pit stop of the Grand Prix, Chris Nissen was leading the race with Moreno in 2nd, Boutsen 3rd for Brabham, Alain Prost 4th for McLaren, Derek Warwick 5th for Rags, and Nelson Piquet rounded the top 6 in his Ligier. Lap 37 and Mike Thackwell from 13th place retired from the race. After Nissen made his 2nd and final pit stop of the race, Chris Nissen was leading the race with Boutsen 2nd for Brabham, Roberto Moreno 3rd for Ferrari, Alain Prost 4th for McLaren, Philippe Alliot 5th for Lotus, and round the top 6 is Derek Warwick for Ags. Lap 56 of the Grand Prix and Chris Nissen retires from the lead of the race. That pushed Nelson Piquet back into the points position in his Ligier. The race came to an end with Thierry Boutsen winning the American Grand Prix with Roberto Moreno 2nd for Ferrari, Alain Prost 3rd for McLaren, Derek Warwick 4th for Rags, Philippe Alliot 5th for Lotus, and round the top 6 is Nelson Piquet in the Ligier. Just before the 6th round of the season, Johnny Dumfries was injured for the next race, and Mike Thackwell, our driver number 2 this season, has been injured for the next 2 races, so he won't recover until round 8. Round 6, the French Grand Prix at Paul Ricard, with Chris Nissen taking pole position, Alessandro Nannini is in 2nd, Adrian Campos stepping in for Thackwell is 3rd, Nelson Piquet is 4th in Ligier, and both the Ferrari drivers who are leading the constructors are 5th and 6th on the grid. Arrow's test driver is not on the grid because Arrows didn't let their test driver take over Johnny Dumfries' seat for this next race. Off at the start of the race, both the Minardi drivers kept their positions of being in 1st and 3rd. After the Minardis made their first pit stops of the Grand Prix, Chris Nissen was leading the race with Nelson Piquet 2nd, and 3rd was Derek Warwick Chris Nissen was leading the race with both Ferrari 2nd and 3rd, 4th place is Pascal Fabry in the Lotus, Nelson Piquet 5th for Ligier, and Nigel Mansell round the top 6 for Brabham. Lap 36 of the French Grand Prix, and Adrian Campos retired from the Grand Prix from 11th position. After Nissan's second and final pit stop of the race, he was leading the Grand Prix with both Ferraris 2nd and 3rd, Pascal Fabry 4th for Lotus, Nigel Mansell was in 5th for Brabham, and around the top 6 was Giovanni Amati in the Williams. The race soon came to an end with Chris Nissen winning the French Grand Prix with both Ferrari drivers 2nd and 3rd, Pascal Fabry 4th for Lotus, Derek Warwick 5th for Rags, and the final points going to Giovanni Amati in the Williams. Round 7 is the British Grand Prix at Silverstone. Both Ferraris locking at the front row with Martin Brundle 3rd for Rags, Pascal Fabry 4th for Lotus, Thierry Boutsen 5th for Brabham, and the other Lotus driver Philippe Alliot rounding off the top 6. The two Minardi drivers meanwhile are 9th and 19th on the grid, and Joy Dumfries does return to F1. He is qualified in 22nd, which is last place. The 3 drivers did make the 107% time and wouldn't be taking part with both the Sack Speed drivers and Joy Dumfries for Arrows. Off the start of the race, Chris Nissen gained 2 positions into 7th, while Adrian Campos stuck to the back of the field as Thierry Boutsen retired on the very first lap of the race. After the Minardi made their first pits of the race, Eric Cummins was leading the race with Martin Brundle in 2nd, Philippe Alliot 3rd for Lotus, Moreno 4th in the other Ferrari, Derek Warwick 5th in the other Ags, and Pascal Fabry in the other Lotus rounding off the top 6. After the Minardi made their 2nd and final pit stops of the Grand Prix, the 2 Ferraris were leading the race with Martin Brundle in 3rd, Alliot in 4th for Lotus, Derek Warwick 5th for Ags, and Pascal Fabry rounding off the top 6 in the other Lotus. The race then ended with a Ferrari 1-2 victory at Silverstone, with Martin Brundle taking 3rd for Ags, Philippe Alliot 4th for Lotus, Derek Warwick 5th in the other Ags, and Pascal Fabry in the other Lotus rounded off the top 6. Round 8 is the German Grand Prix at Hockenheim, with Eric Cummins taking pole position for Ferrari, Thierry Boutsen 2nd for Brabham, Roberto Moreno 3rd for Ferrari, both Lotus drivers 4th and 5th, and Alessandro Nannini rounding up the top 6 in the Benetton. Meanwhile, the 2 Minardi drivers of Chris Nissen and Adrian Campos are 12th and 14th on the grid. The 3 drivers giving the 107% time that wouldn't be taking part of the Grand Prix were Jonathan Powell for Ligier, Gerhard Berger for Sack Speed, and Keke Rosberg for Arrows. Off the start of the race, the 2 Minardi drivers kept their positions of 12th and 14th. Lap 9 of the German Grand Prix, and Pascal Fabry from 5th place retired from the Grand Prix. That pushed Derek Warwick in the Ags into the top 6. After both Minardi made their first pit stops of the race, both Ferraris were leading the race, with Thierry Boutsen 3rd for Brabham, Philippe Alliot 4th for Lotus, Derek Warwick 5th for Rags, and Alain Prost rounds up the top 6 in the McLaren. After both Minardi made their second and final pit stops of the race, both Ferraris were leading the race, with Boutsen 3rd, Alliot 4th for Lotus, Derek Warwick 5th for Rags, and Prost rounding up the top 6 for McLaren. At the end of the race, it was another 1-2 victory for Ferrari, with Thierry Boutsen taking 3rd for Brabham, Philippe Alliot 4th for Lotus, Derek Warwick 5th for Rags, and Alain Prost gained the final point for McLaren in 6th place. Now that we are halfway into the season, it was now time to check the Drivers and the Constructors' Championships. In the Drivers' Championship, we see leading the way is Roberto Moreno with a 7-point lead over his teammate Eric Cummins, who was a further 17 points ahead of Thierry Boutsen in 3rd place for Brabham. And in the Constructors' Championship, we do see Ferrari has 87 points, so they are leading the Constructors by quite some margin. They are 47 points ahead of Brabham, who are a further 15 points ahead of Ags in 3rd place with 25 points. Round 9 is the Hungarian Grand Prix at the Hungaroring, with both Minardis looking at the front row of the grid. Ayrton Senna is 3rd for McLaren, both Ferraris 4th and 5th, and rounding off the top 6 is Thierry Boutsen in the Brabham. The 2 drivers who did make the 107% time that would be taking part of the race were Stefan Johansson for Williams and Keke Rosberg for Arrows. The race got underway with both the Minardi drivers keeping their positions of 1st and 2nd. After the Minardi made their first pit stop of the race, Chris Nissen was leading the race with Moreno in second, Derek Warwick was in third, in fourth place Nigel Mansell for Brabham, Senna fifth for McLaren, and Filipelio rounding up the top six for Lotus. After the Minardi made their second and final pit stops of the race, Nissan was leading the race with Moreno in second, Derek Warwick third for Ferraris, Nigel Mansell fourth for Brabham, Ayrton Senna fifth for McLaren, and rounding up the top six was Filipelio in the Lotus. The race soon ends with Chris Nissen winning the Hungarian Grand Prix with Roberto Moreno taking second for Ferrari, Derek Warwick taking third for Ferraris, in fourth place was Nigel Mansell for Brabham, Ayrton Senna fifth for McLaren, and Filipelio gained the final point in sixth place for Lotus. Round 10, the Austrian Grand Prix at Österreich. Both the Ferraris look out the front row, Thierry Boutsen is in third, both Lotuses fourth and fifth, and round up the top six is Gerhard Berger for the Zach Speed. The two Minardi drivers lock out the fourth row in the grid, and the three drivers to make the 107% time that wouldn't take part of the Grand Prix were Giovanni Amati for Williams, Michele Abreu for Zach Speed, and Jonathan Palmer for the Ligier. The race got underway with both Minardi drivers keeping their positions of 7th and 8th. After both Minardi made their first pits of the race, Chris Nissen retired from the Grand Prix. Meanwhile, in the lead of the race was Filipelio for Lotus, Moreno second for Ferrari, Berger third for Zach Speed, Nigel Mansell fourth for Brabham, Comas fifth for Ferrari, and round the top six was Thierry Boutsen in the Brabham. After Adrian Campos made his second and final pit stop of the race, Alio was leading the race with Moreno in second, Mansell third for Brabham, Rosberg fourth for Arrows, Prost fifth for McLaren, and Gerhard Berger rounding off the top six in his Zach Speed. The race soon came to an end with Filipelio winning the Austrian Grand Prix in his Lotus, Roberto Moreno taking second for Ferrari, Nigel Mansell third for Brabham, Gerhard Berger fourth for Zach Speed, Alan Prost came fifth for McLaren, and round the top six was Adrian Campos for Minardi, as Keke Rosberg retired from the race before the game actually showed me that he retired, so I didn't know he retired until the results screen came out. Round 11, the Canadian Grand Prix at Montreal. Both Minardi lock out the front row, both Lotuses lock out the second row, Martin Brundle fifth for Ags, and Thierry Boutsen rounding off the top six for Brabham. Roberto Moreno, the championship leader, is 13th on the grid in his Ferrari with his teammate just ahead of him in 12th place. The race got underway with the two Minardi keeping their positions of being in first and second. Lap 19 and Adrian Campos retires from second place in the Grand Prix. That pushed Martin Brundle in the Ags into the top 6. After Nissen made his first pit stop of the race, Filipelio was leading the Grand Prix in his Lotus with Nissen in second, Mansell third for Brabham, Pascal Fabry fourth for Lotus, and the two Ags drivers round off the top 6. Meanwhile, the two Ferrari drivers are 12th and 13th. After Nissen made his second and final pit stop of the race, Alio was still leading the Grand Prix with Derek Warwick in second for Ags, Nigel Mansell third for Brabham, Boutsen fourth in the other Brabham, Nissen fifth for Minardi, and Martin Brundle ran up the top 6 in his Ags. Lap 56 and Nigel Mansell from second place to retire for the Grand Prix in his Brabham. That pushed Pascal Fabry in the Lotus into the top 6. The race soon ended with Filipelio winning the Canadian Grand Prix in his Lotus with Thierry Boutsen taking second for Brabham, Chris Nissen third for Minardi, both Ags drivers fourth and fifth, and the final points going to Pascal Fabry in the Lotus. Round 12, the Portuguese Grand Prix at Estoril. Both Minardi looking at the front row. Eric Comas third for Ferrari, Filipelio fourth for Lotus, Roberto Moreno fifth for the other Ferrari, and rounding up the top 6 is Thierry Boutsen for Brabham. At the start of the race, the two Minardi drivers kept their positions of first and second. Lap 20 of the Portuguese Grand Prix, and Eric Comas ended up retiring from the Grand Prix from second place just before the two Minardi drivers came in to do their first pit stops. After the Minardi made their first pit stops of the Grand Prix, Adrian Campos was leading the race with Alio in second, Moreno third, Nissen fourth, Boutsen fifth, and Pascal Fabry rounding off the top 6. After the Minardi drivers made their second and final pit stops of the race, Alio was leading the race with Moreno in second, Mansell in 3rd, Boots in 4th, and both Minardi drivers running up the top 6. Lap 67 of the Portuguese Grand Prix, and Thierry Boutsen from 4th place has retired from the Grand Prix. That pushed Adrian Campos and the Minardi back into the top 6. The race came to an end with Filipe Alio winning the Portuguese Grand Prix in his Lotus, with Roberto Moreno 2nd for Ferrari, Nigel Mansell 3rd for Brabham, Chris Nissen 4th for Minardi, Pascal Fabry 5th for Lotus, and running up the top 6 is the other Minardi driver of Adrian Campos in 6th place. With 4 races left to go, it was now time to look at the Drivers' and Constructors' Championships. In the Drivers' Championships, we see Roberto Moreno with a 25-point lead over Eric Comas, which is still possible to catch and he's coming with the 4 races to go, with Filipe Alio 1 point behind Comas with 39 for Lotus. And in the Constructors' Championship, we see that Ferrari with 105 points can no longer be caught unless they've already won the Constructors' Championship, with Brabham 2nd with 57, which is 11 more than 3rd place being, I believe it was Lotus. Round 13 was the British Grand Prix at Brands Hatch, with Pascal Fabry in pole position for Lotus. The championship leader Roberto Moreno, who could claim the championship in this race, is in 2nd. Filipe Alio is 3rd in the other Lotus, Eric Comas 4th in the other Ferrari, and the 2 Minardi drivers rounding off the top 6. Off at the start of the race, Eric Comas, who qualified in 4th in his Ferrari, stalled his car so he was out of the race. Meanwhile, the 2 Minardi drivers are now 4th and 5th, while the championship leader Moreno was in 2nd. Lap 15 of the British Grand Prix, and Chris Nissen retired from the race from 4th place. That pushed his teammate Adrian Campos into the points position until Nigel Mansell overtook him. Lap 21, and Pascal Fabry from 3rd place for Lotus retired from the Grand Prix. That pushed Thierry Boutsen in the Brabham into the points position. After Campos made his first pit stop of the race, Filipe Alio was leading the race for Lotus, Roberto Moreno in 2nd, both AGS drivers 3rd and 4th, and both Brabham drivers rounded off the top 6. After Campos made his 2nd and final pit stop of the race, Moreno was leading the race with Brundle in 2nd, Alio in 3rd, Boutsen in 4th, Prost in 5th, and Derek Wark rounded off the top 6. The race soon ended with Roberto Moreno winning the British Grand Prix and possibly have won the Drivers' Championship. Martin Brundle taking 2nd for AGS, while Filipe Alio is in 3rd for Lotus, Thierry Boutsen 4th for Brabham, Derek Wark 5th for AGS, and the final point went to Alain Prost in the McLaren. In the Drivers' Championship, it was clear that Roberto Moreno has already won the Drivers' Championship with 3 races left to go, as Filipe Alio's 2nd place cannot catch Roberto Moreno at this stage of the game, having the fact he is 31 points behind and can only score a max of 27 points. And in the Constructors' Championship, we see Ferrari have already won the Constructors' Championship. So with 3 races left to go, there was really nothing else to play for. Round 14, the Mexican Grand Prix at Mexico City. Chris Nissen taking pole position for Minardi, Eric Comas 2nd for Ferrari, Alessandro Nini 3rd for Benetton, Thierry Boutsen 4th for Brabham, Adrian Campos 5th for Minardi, and round the top 6 is Martin Brundle in the AGS, and the driver had already won the Drivers' Championship, being Roberto Moreno, has qualified 7th in the Ferrari, and the 2 drivers who didn't make the 107% time that wouldn't take part of the race were both the Aros drivers of Keke Rosberg and Johnny Dumfries. The race got off underway with both the Minardi drivers keeping their positions of being in 1st and 5th. After both Minardis made their first pit stops of the race, Eric Comas was leading the race with Chris Nissen in 2nd, Boutsen 3rd for Brabham, Moreno 4th for Ferrari, Prost 5th for McLaren, and rounding off the top 6 was Filipe Alio in the Lotus. After both Minardi made their 2nd and final pit stops of the race, both of the Ferraris were leading the race with Boutsen in 3rd, Alain Prost 4th for McLaren, 5th was Filipe Alio for Lotus, and round off the top 6 was Chris Nissen for Minardi. The race soon ended with both Ferraris coming home for another Ferrari 1-2 victory, with Thierry Boutsen taking 3rd for Brabham, Alain Prost 4th for McLaren, Filipe Alio 5th for Lotus, and rounding off the top 6 was Chris Nissen in the Minardi. With 2 races left to go, it was now time to check the Drivers' and Constructors' Championship, and Roberto Real now having a 31-point lead over his teammate, who is a further 4 points ahead of 3rd place Filipe. And in the Constructors' Championship, Ferrari have got more than double the points of Brabham in 2nd, who is 12 points ahead of Lotus in 3rd. Round 15, the Japanese Grand Prix of Suzuka. Both Minardi looking at the front row, both the Ferraris looking at the 2nd row, and both the Brabham drivers looking at the 3rd row of the grid. Off at the start of the race, the 2 Minardi drivers kept their positions of being in 1st and 2nd. Lap 12 of the Grand Prix, and Adrian Campos from 10th place retires from the Grand Prix. After Chris Nissen made his first pit stop of the Grand Prix, Roberto Moreno was leading the race, with Nissen taking 2nd place. In 3rd place was Thierry Boutsen, Martin Brundle 4th, Pascal Fabry in 5th, and Eric Comas rounding off the top 6 in the Ferrari. After Nissen made his 2nd and final pit stop of the Grand Prix, Moreno was leading the race, with Mansell in 2nd, Derek Warwick in 3rd, Filipe in 4th, Chris Nissen in 5th, and Thierry Boutsen rounding off the top 6 in the Brabham. The race then ended with Roberto Moreno winning the Japanese Grand Prix. Derek Warwick taking 2nd for Rags, Nigel Mansell 3rd for Brabham, Filipe 4th for Lotus, Thierry Boutsen 5th for Brabham, and rounding off the top 6 is Minardi's driver of Chris Nissen. With 1 race left to go, it was now time to look at the Drivers' and Constructors' Championship one more time. Drivers' Championship, Eric Comas is 1 point ahead of Filipe Alliot, so the battle for 2nd place is pretty much on, because Eric Comas is 40 points behind his teammate Roberto Moreno in the Drivers' Championship. And in the Constructors' Championship, we see Ferrari are already more than double points of 2nd place, which has to be Brabham with 70 points, who are 15 ahead of Lotus, so Lotus would need a 1-2 victory, and Brabham scored no points to tie for 2nd place. Round 16 is Adelaide for the Australian Grand Prix. Both Ferraris looking at the front row, Filipe Alliot in 3rd, Thierry Boutsen in 4th, Pascal Fabry in 5th, and Martin Brundle round off the top 6. While the 2 Minardi drivers are 9th and 11th on the grid. So at this stage, it looks like Eric Comas has the advantage of finishing in 2nd place in the Drivers' Championship over Filipe Alliot. Off at the start of the race, Chris Nissen fell down to 10th, while Adrian Campos fell down to 12th. Lap 3 of the Grand Prix, with Filipe Alliot having a 10-second stop-go penalty, dropping from 3rd to 9th. Lap 15 of the Australian Grand Prix, and Adrian Campos from 15th place retires from the race. After Nissen made his first pit stop of the Grand Prix, both the Ferrari drivers were leading the race, with Martin Brundle 3rd for Rags, both Brabham's 4th and 5th, and round up the top 6 is Pascal Fabry for Lotus. After Nissen made his 2nd and final pit stop of the Grand Prix, both the Ferraris were leading the race, with Pascal Fabry in 3rd, both Brabham drivers 4th and 5th, and round the top 6 Martin Brundle in the Ags. Lap 57, and Chris Nissen from 9th place retires from the Grand Prix. Lap 74 of the Australian Grand Prix, and Nigel Mansell from 4th place retires from the Grand Prix in the Brabham. That pushed Derek Warwick in the Ags into the top 6. The race ended with another Ferrari 1-2 victory as Eric Comas wins the race and gets 2nd place in the Drivers' Championship. Roberto Moreno, his teammate, is in 2nd. Pascal Fabry is 3rd for Lotus. Thierry Boutsen 4th for Brabham. And both the Ags drivers rounding up the top 6, scoring the final points of the season. Now that the season has ended, it's time to look at the Drivers' Championship and the Constructors' Championship for the last time. Roberto Moreno winning the Drivers' Championship with a 37-point lead over Eric Comas in 2nd place, who beats Filipe Alliot for 2nd place by 10 points. Thierry Boutsen is the best of the rest in 4th with 41 points in the Brabham, which is 8 more than Derek Warwick in the Ags, who has also got the same amount of points as Chris Nissen in the Minardi, 1 point ahead of Nigel Mansell in the other Brabham. Martin Brundle rounding off page 1 with 18 points, which is just more than half of what Derek Warwick got. Looking into page 2, we see Alan Prost with 14 points, which is 4 less than Martin Brundle, and Pascal Fabry, the other Lotus driver, with 11 points, by Alan Prost having doubled the amount of points than 11th place driver, his teammate Ayrton Senna, with 7. Gerhard Berger in the Zach Speed getting 3. Adrian Campos, the other Minardi driver, with 2, which is the same amount of points as Alessandro Janney in the Benetton. And rounding off the point scorers at the end of page 2, Giovanni Amati and Keke Rosberg both having 1 point each for Williams and Arrows respectively. Looking into the third and final page, we see the last point scorer is Nelson Piquet with 1 point in the Ligier, where the other non-point scorers are being Jonathan Palmer in the other Ligier, Mike Fackel, who was originally driver number 2 for Minardi, ended up getting dropped after he was injured, Philip Streif for Benetton, Joey Dumfries for Arrows, Michele Abreu for Zach Speed, and finally Stefan Hansen for Williams. Now that's the Drivers' Championship out of the way, let's now look at the Constructors' Championship. Looking at the Constructors' Championship, Ferrari with 153 points, which is 18 more than Brabham in second, who beats Lotus for third place by 14 points. Alex getting 4th with 51 points. Minardi 5th with 35 points, so pretty much the best of the rest. McLaren in 6th place with 21 points, which is 18 more than 7th spot Zach Speed with 3 points. And then rounding off page 1, we have Benetton with 2 points. Rounding off the Constructors' Championship, we have Williams, Ligier and Arrows, who all got 1 point each thanks to Amati, Piquet and Keke Rosberg respectively. Now the Constructors' Championship out of the way, with one thing we need to do, and that's see what engine suppliers have improved their engines for the next season of this 1987 mod of Grand Prix Manager 2. First up, we have Renault. Renault was supplying only one team this season, which was Minardi, so this could potentially help Minardi get further up the field for next season. Next up, we have Ford engines being improved, which is being used by the champions of Ferrari, which is also being used by Lotus, which is used by the two back markers of Benetton and Williams. So this could probably help Ferrari win the next season of the Drivers' and Constructors' Championship for next season, while this might help make Lotus more competitive to try and beat Brabham for second in the Constructors' Championship. But it might also help Williams and Benetton to get further up the field and try and get out of being in the back markers for next season. Third engine supplier to improve their engines is Megatron. Now Megatron was being used by Ligier, Arrows and Brabham, so this might help Brabham possibly be more of a challenge to Ferrari for next season. But if Ferrari using Ford for next season, I'm not really sure how that's going to help them that much. Arrows were pretty much the back markers, but this is their first season returning to F1 after they went bankrupt back in season 5. And for Ligier, having Megatron engines might potentially help them get out of the back marker spot, but it's going to be quite hard to tell if Ford improved their engines that Benetton and Williams are using for the season, if they're going to use it for next season. Motori Moderni have improved their engines. Now the thing with Motori Moderni is they haven't supplied a single team ever since Minardi used them back in season 1. I have doubts that anyone next season will be using Motori Moderni engines, but who knows, maybe they might and maybe they won't. We're just going to have to find out. Fifth engine supplier is Alfa Romeo. Now Alfa Romeo has not supplied a team engines at all throughout this entire mod. So throughout the 1987 mod, Alfa Romeo have not supplied a single team Alfa Romeo engines for a single season. So will this be a chance for Alfa Romeo to finally have a team come to them to supply engines? I personally don't think so, but we'll just have to wait and see. Sixth team to supply improved engines for next season is BMW. Now BMW was not used at all this season because Brabham switched from BMWs to Megatrons for this season. So will a team go to BMW for next season? Who knows? I think BMW would have a more likelihood of getting supplied engines than Moderni or Alfa Romeo, but we'll have to wait and see. Seventh team to have improved their engines for next season is Judd. Now Judd has not supplied engines at all since season 2 and season 3 with Minardi, but ever since then Judd has not supplied a single engine to any other teams. Will they be able to convince anyone to join them? I don't think so, but we're going to have to wait and see as usual. The 8th and final team to supply their engines to be improved is Zack Speed. Now, Zack Speed are the only team using Zack Speed engines, so maybe it'll help Zack Speed have a better showing for next season than they did this season, because this season they had a pretty bad season, pretty much stuck at the back, apart from Gerberger getting the 3 points for Zack Speed at one time, but apart from that, they really struggled, along with Benetton, Williams, and Ligier for that matter. So, I hope you enjoyed this season of Grand Prix Manager 2. Again, apologies that it's taken me a while to get this done. It's just after I lost all my progress in doing the editing, having to start again was just a ball ache to do. It just takes way too long to do it the first time round, and having to do it twice is just so annoying. But anyway, I hope you guys still enjoyed the season. I hope next season we will do a bit better than we did this season. I mean, we had an alright season with Chris Nissen doing pretty well, and after Mike Fackel was injured about nearly halfway into the season, the reason I did not put him back in the driver's seat and just have Campos replace him for the rest of the season, it was basically because Mike Fackel was pretty bad this season. I mean, Chris Nissen was just a better driver, and I thought, okay, if Fackel is going to be injured, and if Campos shows that he's better than Fackel, I will just basically keep Fackel on the sidelines and have Campos be the driver number 2 for the rest of the season. And I think I made the right decision to do it. Well, next season, will we keep them? And if we do, will they do better? We're going to we hope you guys wait to find out, and I hope you guys are looking forward to it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for your patience, and I hope this was worth it, and I hope next season I will hopefully this will still be still a fun season coming up. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and goodbye!